You're watching a question of the month video from Flamboyance Tours. And this question of the month is: how hot does it get in Adelaide?
How hot does it get in Adelaide? It's a question a lot of people ask me, and what I want to say is that it gets hot. The average temperatures usually range in the mid to low 30s across a lot of our summer months, which of course are across December, January, and February officially. However, we have seen temperatures for a lot of time go well above 40 degrees. For me, growing up in Adelaide, I always remember a lot of heat waves as I was going through school and even into being an adult, having to deal with temperatures of over 40 degrees quite consistently. You can look up how in the early 2000s, Adelaide suffered a lot of heat waves year after year, where technically a heat wave used to constitute at least 3 days of more than 40-degree temperatures or 5 days of at least 37-degree temperatures. It's an interesting one. When I was in school, I remember that because not all of the buildings had working air conditioning, if it was above a certain temperature, we would be let off school early as we weren't expected to, study in such conditions. My memories are full of summers where, again, we would get time off school early, but also things like music festivals that happen across the summer season here. We would swelter in 40-degree heat watching some of our favourite bands, and it brings back quite a nostalgic time. Nighttime temperatures in Adelaide can get to usually around 15 degrees as a minimum, so it's still comfortable to sleep. But we do have a lot of nights where, if it's been warm across the days consistently, sometimes the temperature doesn't drop as far, and we still have nights of up to 25 or even 28 degrees Celsius as a minimum across the night, which doesn't bode well if you want to try and get a good night's sleep. You usually have to have air conditioners on or fans or whatever you can manage. Our hottest ever day was 46.6 degrees recorded in the city centre. That was in 2019, and it broke a record that had existed since 1939. As a local, I can certainly remember where I was on that day. I'd started operating tours not long before, and no one showed up that day, which is absolutely fair given how hot it felt. And it was very much the case where I decided to go to the beach, but even still, the water was that hot that I couldn't stay in there long. And I remember waiting for my bus on the way home, thinking, why am I not just sitting in an ice box that could be a living room with an air conditioner? It was just crazy. It's not to say that that's the hottest anywhere in Australia. Many regional centres have reached well above that, but to my understanding, it still remains the largest, or the highest, sorry, temperature for a capital city ever recorded in Australian history. But I would argue in the last maybe 5 or so years, up to 2025, we haven't seen as much of that consistent heat wave weather. While we've seen some of the hottest weather on record, it's more consistent in terms of that standard low to mid 30s and, less of those over 40 temperatures. The hottest month in Adelaide is usually January, but we have seen our warm weather stretch across past the summer months into March. That's when we have a lot of events on here in Adelaide, and it makes a lot of sense given that we still have a lot of warm nights during that time. It's a dry heat that we feel here, not like other parts of Australia where there's a lot more humidity. That's changed somewhat, I think, in recent years, but definitely as I was growing up, it's a very dry heat, and Adelaide is known as a very dry city. When you're in Australia, it's really important to go by what we call the slip, slop, slap, seek and slide saying. You basically slip on a t-shirt, you slop on some sunscreen, you slap on a hat, and then in later years they've introduced seek and slide, which is seek some shade as I'm doing here, and also sliding on some sunglasses so you're ultimately protected. So look, what this means is that when you come on a walking tour, you just need to make sure that you've got weather appropriate clothing, make sure you bring a hat, Make sure you've got water as well. That's really important to keep hydrated. And obviously, things like sunscreen. We're always happy to help you with that. We've got sunscreen on hand when we're on tours, but make sure that you're prepared and you will enjoy your Australian summer. And of course, you'll enjoy a walking tour with us as well. So, what are you waiting for? Let's go!
Thanks for watching. We have multiple tours and services which you can find more information about by visiting our website, flamboyancetours.com.au. And don't forget to follow us across social media too so you can stay connected with what we've got going on.